the armament of God. Worship to break through the armament of God. And God began to speak something very profound. I thought I was going to preach something else. Amen. And as I was preparing myself to preach something else, he just dropped in my spirit, worship to breakthrough. And I'm like, Lord, worship to breakthrough. Okay. So I began to hear what the Lord said. He began to say, the purpose that we worship, amen, is because when we hit the vein of worship, it arms us to be able to stand against the enemy. Not only does it arm us to stand against the enemy, amen, but it arms us to be able to penetrate the atmosphere where it is the enemy has set up his kingdom. Amen. Hallelujah. And he says that when you penetrate the atmosphere where the enemy has set up his kingdom, penetration means that there is a hole present. It creates a hole, amen, a hole all the way through. Amen. And because it creates a hole all the way through, he says, when you penetrate the atmosphere of the enemy, amen, the only thing that's left is the open heavens. Amen. And he says it is in this hour that when you reverence and worship, amen, and I begin to see just holes being poked all in the realm of the enemy, amen, and just open windows of heaven and rays of light and glory just shining through, and God began to speak to me and says that you must stay in that vein of worship. And he said, right, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I need to. He says the purpose of worship, we know, transcends time. Amen. Amen. And when you look at the word transcend, amen, it is simply this: to rise above or go beyond the limits of, to triumph over the negative or restrictive aspects of. It is to overcome what? Time. Amen. We know again that God is not restricted or governed by time, but he's the creator of time. Amen. And so he began to say that when you enter the vein in the realm of worship, it transcends time. In other words, time stops. Amen. But with the stopping of the time, amen, and you entering into the presence of God, he began to say that the open heaven simply represents the Kairos moment. Amen. God began to speak something to me. He said we can become accustomed because of the teachings, and they are true teachings, amen, of the Kairos moment. We begin to prepare ourselves for the fasting and the offerings, amen, at the specified times of the year. Because we understand and know that those create in our obedience what? An open window of heaven. But God began to speak to me. He said, listen, every time you enter into the vein of reverence and worship that I, God, am seeking for, amen, he says that it causes you to put on the whole armor of God. He began to speak to me. He said, listen, the whole armor of God is not just so that you can withstand what the enemy shows or throws at you, amen. He says, but it also puts you in a position where you are able to penetrate. And he began to discuss the armor of God, the helmet of salvation, the breastplate of righteousness, your feet shod with the gospel of truth, amen, and your waist shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Amen. He began to speak to me. He said, what you do is you encase yourself. In other words, you become like a bullet. Amen. Hallelujah. And he says, when you encase yourself, you become a projectile that is able to pierce the kingdom of darkness. And he began to speak something very profound to me. He said, the reason why that I would call you as a house of prayer, the reason why I would tell you to put on the whole armor of God and to reverence and worship me the way that you're supposed to, amen, he says, is because in this hour I have found that my people have been half-dressed. Amen. Half-dressed. What is he saying? He said in some instances, because we don't stay in the presence of God long enough to break through, we don't put on the full armor of God. And he began to show me something. He said, we're yet given an assignment, and when you go forward to complete the assignment, amen, if you are not fully dressed, amen, then you are incapable of completing the assignment. In other words, you can't penetrate the kingdom of darkness. God began to show me something. He said it's all right for some people to stay here in the earthly realm and to shout and to praise and to sing and to reverence and give to God what they believe is worship. He says, but if your worship cannot penetrate the atmosphere, the realm of the enemy, where the enemy is the prince of the power of the air, supernatural spirits and then the heavenly spirit, he said, then the worship is not correct. Amen. And so he says, you must put on the whole armor of God so that you can penetrate the atmosphere of the enemy. And when you penetrate the atmosphere of the enemy, because you're not just piercing it, amen, but you are going through it. And when you go through it, it creates a hole or the kairos moment, the time or the season, amen, when the miraculous will of God will be made known and manifest in your life. And then he began to speak to me. He said, but what you have not known, amen, is that every time he pierced the kingdom of darkness, amen, you penetrate it and you put a hole in it, if you stay in the realm of worship, that you can create your own kairos moment. Amen. Now, because when he said yes, he says it's not just only the time of year, amen, when we keep the feast and we give an offering, amen. He said, but the moment that you hit the vein of reverence and worship, amen, the moment that you hit the realm of reverence and worship that I require, amen, as we were talking about leadership yesterday, he said there were 3 different types of prayers. He said that prayer, and when it goes up, it becomes like fire, and it penetrates the atmosphere. He says, if you stay in my presence to reverence and worship me long enough, he says that's the full armament of God that is coming through, amen, and it creates a hole that stays open, and it creates the kairos moment. The kairos moment then simply means that when we hit the realm and the vein of worship that God requires, amen, we can always continually walk under an open heaven. Amen. But he says, it is the effectual fervent prayer of the righteous man that avails much. Amen. So then, breakthrough is a significant and dramatic overcoming of a perceived obstacle, allowing the completion of a process. It is an act of overcoming or penetrating an obstacle or restriction. It is a military offensive that penetrates an enemy's lines of defense. Amen. And so understand that when we enter into the realm of reverence and worship, and this is why God began to speak to me so profoundly, and then he began to show me even another vision that just came back to me. And I was sitting there and I began to pray, and it came to my thought, well, man, Lord, when we begin to pray and break through the way that you're saying breakthrough, then that means there's going to be a lot of witches and warlocks that's coming at us. Amen. I began to see the vision. And God said, yeah, but they can't touch you because there's a breakthrough. Amen. And this is why you must pray. Have reverence and worship to break through. Amen. If there's no breakthrough, then you will not succeed. Amen. Will not. Cannot. Hallelujah. And so he says it must be breakthrough. Amen. It must be a penetration that creates a hole in the enemy's lines of defense. Amen. Where you have access to go between you and God from here in this earth. Amen. So then he said, what is armament? Armament is the military weapons and equipment, the arms and equipment with which a military unit or military apparatus is supplied. It is the process of equipping military forces for war. God began to speak to me. You do know that you are at war. Amen. He began to speak to me. He said, you do know that you are at war. He said, why else would I cause you to be armed? Amen. If you were not at war, he said, but if you put on the whole armor of the Lord, you will succeed. Amen. Putting on the whole armor of God requires us being in our word, because that what gives us the faith to stand, and then prayer and worship. Amen. Prayer and worship. And he says, when you have entered into the place of prayer and worship that I require, amen, and you have been fully garbed or fully dressed. In other words, what I begin to see us going into the presence of God. And as we stand there and we reverence and worship him, amen, I begin to see the full armor of God just begin to attach itself to us in every area and aspect that was supposed to be. And then God says, when you have been fully equipped, I will send you. Amen. And when he sends us, there will be nothing that will stop us Why? Because the armament has given to us the necessary tools, what? To defeat the enemy, to penetrate his atmosphere. Listen, coming and going. Amen. Hallelujah. Coming and going. When the scripture began to speak to me, he said, listen, the Bible says, and I looked upon him, and I saw in the heavens, and I saw angels ascending and descending, which means then that there has to be an access for God from the heavens into the earth, vice versa. And I want y'all to know and understand, that's us. Amen. That's us. Hallelujah. And so God said, when you put on the full armament of God, amen, the armament that I provide, not that anybody else provides, but armament that I know that have been tested, tried, and proven, and that will penetrate, amen, the kingdom of darkness. Amen. He says, then I'll send you and you'll be effective. Amen. So, God is saying, the breakthrough you need is predicated upon your ability to worship Him in spirit and in truth. This equips you with the necessary tools, armament needed to break through the spirit forces of wickedness and the heavenly supernatural fear. Now he began to speak to me and said, now listen, I understand that this is a need. What is need? A requirement. It is because it is essential or very important. Necessity or obligation, circumstances in which something is necessary or that requires some course of action. In order to penetrate the kingdom of darkness and get victory after victory after victory, but manifestation after manifestation after manifestation, you have to have the full armor of God on. Amen. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Sometimes you look at people, they ride motorcycles. Amen. We know that they got full guard, from boots to shins or shields, and they wear leather chaps. Amen. They got the jacket with the padding all around it, and then the helmet. Amen. And they look like they're prepared in case something was to happen, they would survive. But then you get individuals that you see, the only thing they got on is just a helmet. Amen. Just a helmet, and that's it. And they think that because they're possibly bigger or have ridden for such a long time, amen, that all they need is the helmet, and when the opportunity presents itself for the enemy to cause them to be in an accident, they don't survive. Amen. Why? Because they didn't have the full armament on. But then those individuals that look silly and look hot when they're riding their motorcycles, get in an accident, and they skid across the concrete, and then hit to the concrete area and get up. And the first thing they tell you, man, if I didn't have none of my protective equipment on, I wouldn't have survived. Amen. It's the exact same way with the full armor of God. God spoke to me and said that some of us has been sent into assignment, amen, and we're not fully dressed. We're not fully armored from head to toe. Amen. And God says in this hour, you have to be. It's always been that way. He said, I wouldn't give the armament, amen, if it wasn't needed. Amen. And so our battles now will become effective and we'll be victorious. Why? Because we'll arm ourselves with the full armament of God. Amen. He said it's needed. Amen. So, the course of action needed for relevant breakthrough in our lives is worship to God that properly arms for the spiritual conflict we are in. We are in a spiritual conflict. The armor that we are putting on is a spiritual armor. That's why we have to keep going back to John 4:23 and 24 until we get the revelation and understanding, until the light bulb clicks on that this is spiritual. Why? Because God is a spirit. And even those that we fight against are spirit beings. When we look at ourselves, we are spirit beings. We just happen to have a body for the purpose of manifesting God's will here in the earth. But we are spirit, you all. Amen. And this is why the enemy fights us so much in our prayer. And God began to show me something. He said, people want to say worship. He said, but you can not talk about worship until you first enter prayer. You can't just go from you can't bypass prayer and go into worship. Amen. And a lot of people, sad but true, think that they can just enter into worship. He said, but no, you have to enter into prayer. Amen. And we began to show me this. He said, when you enter into prayer, it's like coming into the what? Outer courts. And as you continue on, you enter into the inner courts. And as you continue on pressing in, you enter into the holies of holies. Amen. Hallelujah. And so understand, this is why he said a lot of people faint at prayer, why the enemy is so victorious, because prayer is not something that you just like that. Amen. He said, but it is a building. You know why? God began to speak something very profound to me. He says, when we go throughout our week and we go through our days and all the things we do, amen, he says there are a lot of things that have to be removed out of the way so that our spirits can be sensitive to the voice of God. Amen. And he said that stuff is not removed quickly. Why? Because when the enemy sends it, he sends it to attach itself to your spirit. Amen. And so there is delicate surgery that has to take place. Amen. That God has to go in and begin to take these things and move them and gather them and get them out of the way. Amen. So that there will be no hindrance in us hearing what the Spirit of the living God has to say. But here's the problem. He said, because you are governed by time. Amen. And you always watching the clock. You're going to got to get into the outer court, into the inner court, and the holies of holies, and I got to be there at a certain amount of time. And God said, this is something that cannot be rushed. Amen. This is why he says, if need be, get up early enough before you have to do anything so that you can take the time to enter into the holies of holies. Amen. And we've all been guilty of it. Amen. We've all been guilty of it. And he said, and that's why we've been ineffective in our battle. Oh, I need to go home, I need to eat, feed the kids, I need to get some sleep, and get up at just enough time to say a quick prayer and off to work again. He said that when you do it that way, whether you want to believe it or not, amen, he says you're not properly armed. Amen. He said you haven't armed yourself for the proper conflict. He says, you go on to work, why you think you fight against people at work, and you can look at them and say what you want to say. He said, this thing is spiritual. Amen? And he said, because you don't have on the spiritual armament of God, the whole spiritual armament of God, amen, he says, you are failing miserably. Hallelujah. Failing miserably. Hallelujah. And so he says, prayer is the key. And when I was sitting there, he began to speak to me, he said, listen, this is a house of prayer. He said, but within this house of prayer, there are individual houses of prayer. Every last one of us is a house of prayer unto God. And what I begin to see is our voices being raised. Every house having a voice being raised unto God. Amen. A voice that penetrates the atmosphere of the kingdom of darkness. That's what God is calling us to. Amen. And that's why he says on Sundays, and when we come in here, the very purpose of us coming in here is to really reverence and worship. It's a worship service. Amen. And so he says your mind shouldn't be on anything else except to come and reverence and worship. But you can't reverence and worship until you first start in prayer. And as that prayer begins to build, amen, such as it did today, amen, as it begins to build, then you begin to walk under an open window of heaven. And that's when he began to show me when the heavens open up, amen, and the glory of God began to shine through. He says people begin to come in to be saved, delivered, and set free, to be healed. Amen. That's the purpose of reverence and worship. Amen. And then, like I said, when he showed me being in crusades, he showed me something very profound. He said, when they get together, you ever notice they don't come preaching. They don't come doing anything except in prayer and worship. Amen. Prayer and worship. Prayer and worship. Prayer and worship. That's how people experiences God. Amen. All the other little things that we've added in down through the years, amen, are the very things that have taken us away from the most important thing about being and coming into the presence of God, and that is worship. The worship has to come through prayer. Amen. Hallelujah. And so it is imperative that we hear and heed what the Spirit of the living God is saying to us, the church. God then began to speak to me. He said, now listen, when you come to the place of reverence and worship, hallelujah, and prayer, he says, if there's anything that needs to be said, I'll begin to speak it. He said, but it'll be prophetically. Amen. Hallelujah. we'll be able to receive it. Why? Because we've already bypassed all of the stuff that would keep us from hearing what the Spirit of the living God is saying to us, the church. See, this is when you get out of worry then. Amen. Because see, you're still in the outer court, amen, and even in the inner court when you can still worry and you can still be distracted. But once you get to the holies of holies, all the distractions are done away with. It's just us and God. Amen. And so God says, go lay hands on that person in the wheelchair. Before you know it, you're already there, done it, and gone, and ain't got up and walking on. You don't have an opportunity to think within yourself when you're in the holies of holies. Why? Because in order to get to the holies of holies means that you've gotten beyond you. Hallelujah. You've gotten beyond you. And I need y'all to hear this, because God began to show me this. There are a lot of times, whether we want to believe it or not, we've not gotten beyond us. Amen. There's a lot of times I hear the Holy Spirit saying where people mistake the inner court for the holies of holies, and it's not. Amen. There is a deeper revelation and understanding in the inner court from the outer court. He said, but then when you hit the holies of holies, you begin to know and understand there's an even greater and deeper revelation of Him in the holies of holies, because He's there with you than there is in the inner court. And he said, that's why the enemy fights us. And again, and I just heard this, he said, there again, 3 levels. From the outer to the inner to the holies of holies. Amen. And you can equate each prayer with the outer, the inner, and the holies of holies. Amen. And that's why the enemy fights us so much. Amen. Because he knows that if we can make it to the holies of holies, we're going to be armed for the proper conflict. What is the proper conflict? Spiritual. Amen? Spiritual. Now listen, this is what I hear God saying. If you can still look at your circumstance and situation after hearing the word of God and being in the presence of God, then guess what? You haven't entered into the holies of holies. If your current circumstance and situation still looms big to you and dictates to you how you will react concerning the word of God, then you have not entered into the holies of holies. You have not put on the full armament of God. In particular, the helmet of salvation that keeps from you all the intrusive thoughts that the enemy sends at your mindset. Amen. Hallelujah. You may have got the gospel of truth shot around your waist or your feet. Amen. And the waist and the gospel of peace. Amen. But as far as your dome, amen, your head, it's still uncovered. You ever seen people? They get fully armored and don't put on their headpiece, and they even go to war, and the enemy, the first thing that he attacks is the weakest area, which is the head. Amen? And that's how some of us enter into battle. Hallelujah. We look at, I'm fully garbed, I'm ready to go. Grab our sword and walk right out and forget to put the helmet on. Amen? And see, the enemy, because he don't fight fair. While you fighting with a sword, he using snipers from a distance. I only need one shot, just one shot, to bust their head wide open. Amen? Why? Because there ain't no helmet. He said, if you don't guard your heart, hallelujah, with the breastplate of righteousness. He said, I only need one shot. I ain't got to get close to you. Amen? I just need one shot to pierce your heart and destroy everything. Amen? Hallelujah. And those that he uses are the distractions that compass us around about every day, that keeps us from coming all the way through the breakthrough in the presence of God. God began to speak to me, and I began to question. Even yesterday I started questioning God, because this is something he and I talked about some years ago. And he began to speak to me. He said, Romaine, every day you should have a breakthrough experience. And you know what came to my mind? Man, Lord, is that really possible? I got to get up and go to work. I got to take the kids to school. I got to do this. I got to do that. How? And that's when he spoke to me and said, if you get up early enough. Amen? If you get up early enough, you'll be able to get the breakthrough that is needed, the proper armament. And then when you go throughout the day, then guess what? You'll be victorious. See, the one thing that I'm sure of, amen, is where God is requiring us to go, we have to do differently than what we've been doing. Amen? And a lot of what God is asking us, where God is asking us to come to, is going to be sacrifice for us that, just to be honest, some of us haven't been willing to give. Amen? We haven't been willing to get up early enough. Now here's why. And now, God, it ain't so much that I have a problem getting up early. Oh, that's right. You have a problem going to bed at the right time. Because if you go to bed at the right time, you can get up early enough so that you can be in the presence of God. Y'all, we all been guilty of it, me included. Amen? But that simply means that you have to become what? A disciple. A disciple means what? Discipline. Amen? You can't be a disciple if you're not disciplined. Amen? If you can't discipline yourself to go to bed at a decent hour, now listen, this is what God began to speak to me. The purpose of you going to bed at a decent hour is so that you can be present and accounted for in His presence. Nothing else. Amen? Nothing else. Hallelujah. The question is, how bad do you want it? Do you want the armament that will allow you to be able to pierce the kingdom of darkness? Or are you fine giving an excuse that you don't have enough time in the day to do all that you need to do and do for God what He needs to do? Because that's what it is, an excuse. That's what it's been being. Amen? That's why we talked on it in reference to leadership yesterday. Humility. Humble yourself under the mighty hand of God. When we humble ourselves under the mighty hand of God, that means we'll do what God say do. When God say, all right, it's time to turn the TV off. It's time to get off the Xbox and all the different things that we do in social media. It's time to go to bed so that you can be present and accounted for. How many of us have been willing to do it? How many? God says in this hour where you're going, you need the full armament of God. And listen, you have to be armed every single day. Amen. The armament that you put on today going to have kinks and tears and punctures in it from the enemy trying. And the Bible says, even though the weapon may form, it shall not prosper. In other words, it ain't going to get through, but the armor is damaged, and you got to go back and you got to re-up. Amen? In other words, you can't take the armament for today into tomorrow's battle. It ain't going to work. Amen? And that's why God, I'm just telling y'all what God spoke. That's why we haven't been getting victory over our lives, amen, because we've not been willing. Y'all hear me? It ain't because of God, it's because we have not been willing to come all the way into His presence and be fully armed. Amen? You got to make up in your mind that I'm going to do what's necessary. As a disciple of God, I am going to discipline myself to do what I need to do so that I can be fully armed. Amen? And if I'm fully